Well, now he works on it. I'll say that, he works on
Here,
it.
I'm gonna give you the line so these kids can go.
Don't short him either.
Thank you.
Nobody from the electric department.
Yeah.
Go. Y'all sort them out. Here, I'll pass them out.
All right.
You sign.
All right.
That's all right.
Got assembly line.
We're gonna charge all that to Andy Hurd.
Here, no, he can just sign.
Thank you.
Is that it? Oh, you want this back?
All right, thank you.
Billy, this
Are you
one of
ready?
those days like we had it was a waste of day. It's good.
2 hours late.
2
2 hours early. I picked up my grandson. I said, well, you had a rough day. He was there from 9:30 to 12. So I picked him up at 12:30. I said, did you have lunch? He said, yeah, we had lunch.
Y'all wouldn't have seen this go.
That came. Oh, yeah, they got it in.
When you run those buses.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for January the 15th, 2013 will come to order. I'll ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Item 1.2 on our agenda will be a presentation of the 2012 financial report or audit by representatives of our auditing firm, the Thurman Campbell Group, and we will entertain that at this time, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First off, I'd like to say that we deeply appreciate the opportunity to serve as your auditors. We enjoy this engagement. It's a lot of fun. You have a really great group of people working for you, and it's always a pleasure to get to work with folks out here in Springfield. With me is Mr. Ankur Singula. He's one of our senior auditors at the firm. We brought Ankur all the way from India to work on this engagement.
Were we that difficult?
We imported a specialist. Ankur is one of our CPAs at the firm. He's one of our senior auditors, and he primarily is the person that helped do the field work here and helped put together some of our efforts here on this audit.
Okay, we welcome you to our meeting.
First off, I'd like to draw your attention to a letter. You should all have a copy of this. I think Jane gave everyone one. It's just a 3-page letter. This is what we refer to as our governance letter. We draft this each year for each of our audit clients near the conclusion of the audit, just to let the people who govern the organization know how the audit went, to communicate things that may not be in the audit report itself, to make the people who are using the financial statements aware of things in them that we feel are sensitive or we feel that they need to pay attention to. There's a couple of things I'll point out in here to you. There is on the first page toward the bottom, we point out certain financial disclosures that we think are sensitive or that we think merit further attention, things we think you need to read carefully, just so you're aware of them. We point out corrected and uncorrected misstatements in the financial statements. There are oftentimes things in the financial statements that are just small, that are off or timing issues or whatever, and we pass on those. We don't make those adjustments because they're not material to the financial statements. They wouldn't influence your opinion on the financial statements or the user's use of the financial statements one way or another. We bring those to your attention to show you're aware of them. And then if we have large adjustments, things that we talk to management about and we in concurrence with management or we ask management to make an adjustment for, to change something, then we'll point those out to you as well, even though they've been corrected and been taken care of in your financial statements. One other matter I'll bring to your attention, toward the bottom of the second page, there are other audit findings and issues. Often we use this to point out little bitty things in internal control that we think management needs to be aware of, needs to think about, but things that we don't think rise to the level of being a true audit finding or something that needs to be communicated in a formal report. For example, here in this audit, we found that one of the individuals in the accounting department had responsibility for both performing bank reconciliations, making journal entries, and taking money to the bank. And as an accountant, we don't like the people who have the money to be the same people who are reconciling the bank account and making journal entries. We like some segregation there. Just keeps everybody honest. And so occasionally we'll find something like that that's happened just because of small staff or because of circumstances, and we'll just bring that to your attention. So one such instance here we pointed out to you. Okay? Moving on from that, I would encourage you all to read that. To our actual audit, the financial statements. The first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is page 4. This is our report. This is our part of this document, this big thick document. This is the part that we are responsible for primarily. I'd like to draw your attention to the third paragraph where it says, in our opinion. This is where we state our opinion on financial statements. This is where we tell you if we are okay with financial statements or if we think there's a problem with financial statements. If you notice here, we say, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects financial position of the government activities, the business type activities, so forth and so on. This is an unqualified opinion. This is as exciting as it gets in our world. So this is what you want to see. If it says something else, you need to get concerned. I want to draw your attention now to the very back of the report, back on page 76. People in the industry refer to this as a yellow book report because it's required by government auditing standards. And governing auditing standards are published in this great big book, and it's yellow. And so they refer to this as a yellow book report. And what this is during the course of audit, we have to look at the internal control of the city in order to design our tests, to figure out how they're recording transactions and how they're preparing financial statements so that we will know what audit procedures to perform, what we need to do. What government auditing standards require us to do is that if there are significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, real bad problems in that accounting system or the design or operation of that system, to bring those things to your attention. It's a subjective measure. It's not a quantitative criteria by any means, but we didn't find anything this year that we felt like needed to be brought to your attention in this area. Another good thing for the city. Government auditing standards also require us to report on compliance and other matters. This is where you guys have a contract or you have a bond covenant or something. Maybe the city has gotten off base on that. Maybe they've spent some grant money on something they shouldn't have, or maybe they've gotten in trouble with some of their bond covenants. This is where we would be required to bring those things to your attention if they would materially affect the financial statement. And generally, a violation of bond covenant is going to materially affect your financial statement. We found none of those kind of issues here, none of those kind of problems here either. So you have what I would refer to as a clean yellow book report in this case. Okay? Those are the two most important things from the audit standpoint that I personally want to bring to your attention. A couple of financial highlights I'll talk to you a little bit about. If you would flip back over to page 15. This is what we refer to as the government-wide statement of net assets. I call it a balance sheet. It's what traditionally in accounting you refer to as a balance sheet. Assets, liabilities, and equity. This is government-wide because it includes both your government activities, which is your general government, your police, your community services, and that sort of thing, and your business-type activities, which are your utility districts, your water, your sewer, your electric, those sorts of things. There are 3 columns. One for government activities, which is the general government, general fund, that sort of thing. One for the utility districts, that's the business-type activities. And the third column is the total. You'll notice looking down through here, you have total assets, about a third of the way down the page, of $156 million. Your liabilities are about $52 million, and your equity is about $100 million. That, in general, is a snapshot of your financial position right now. The government-wide financial statements are full accrual. You put all the assets on the books, you put all the liabilities on the books. It's very similar to a private business enterprise, Walmart, IBM, Apple. If you look at their financial statements, they're going to have all their assets, all their liabilities, and their equity on the books. That's what we do here for the city. That's what the government-wide statement looks like. If you'll flip the page, this big broad animal here is your statement of activities, or what I would call an income statement. Again, this is the government-wide income statement. It covers all of the activities at the city, both the business type and the government activities. It's on page 16. This is a little bit of an animal just because of the way that it's required to be laid out, but it's not nearly as complex as it seems. If you look down the left-hand side of the page, you see government activities and business type activities. Again, your government activities are your police department, public safety, highway, that sort of thing. Your business type activities are electric, gas, water, sewer, that sort of thing. That first column of figures there is your expenses for those programs. The next three columns are program revenues, are revenues generated by those programs, either from user fees or from fines or from grants or whatever are specifically related to those programs. If you go over about the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth column is starts your net expenses. It's basically your expenses minus whatever offsetting revenues you have. You've got a column for governmental activities, a column for business type activities, and then a total column. Down at the bottom, which is kind of opposite from what you would expect on a regular income statement, you've got all your general revenues. These are your taxes and your sales tax and your state taxes and everything that come through that are just generally designed to promote the operation and to fund the operation of the city. They're not specifically identified with any function or any party. They're just general revenues, so they're shown at the end. And this may be way more information than you guys wanted to know about governmental accounting. If you flip over to the next page, page 17, this is another balance sheet, but this is just your governmental funds. You have the general fund, the capital improvements fund, and then your other non-major funds, and then a total column. This financial statement is not full accrual. It's not what you would see if you looked at IBM or Apple or Sears or anybody like that. This is on the modified accrual basis of accounting. You don't have your long-term liabilities, and you don't have your assets. You don't have depreciation. You don't have bonds. It's basically a cash-based or it's modified accrual, but it's basically a cash-based financial statement. It's your money coming in and going out. So it's dramatically different than what you saw when we looked at the government-wide financials. It's probably more what you're accustomed to seeing on a month-to-month basis from your accounting staff. If you flip over to page 18, this is a reconciliation of this balance sheet back to the statement of activities or the statement of assets we looked at earlier, the government-wide balance sheet. It tells you what the differences are. You see it's got capital assets on there and long-term debt. Those are the two big differences. Flip over to page 19. This is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. This again is modified accrual based. It's not full accrual. So it's primarily money in and money out. It's a very straightforward way to look at the government. The revenues you have coming in or the revenues you're going to have next month, less the expenses that you've incurred. So it's a different look at your financial picture. It's more of a current look at it. And it's probably more like what you usually see around here on a month-to-month basis when you're looking at your financial statements. Because generally, most cities don't prepare the full-blown government-wide financials, full accrual basis, on a monthly basis. They usually go with a modified accrual because that's how they budget. Again, the next statement here is a reconciliation of the two. Reconciles your full-blown government-wide income statement to your fund financial statements. I will go back and give you a couple of highlights on a couple of these things from a financial performance standpoint. If you look at the very bottom of page 16, if you go about 1, 2, 3 lines up from the bottom, on page 16, the bottom right, the total column, that is your change in net assets. That means you took in 1.4 million more than you spent out during the year, essentially, after depreciation and everything's taken into consideration on a full accrual based, like a regular company. If we flip over to get to the right page, page 19. If you look about 3 lines up from the bottom on the right-hand side, you see a number in brackets, $64,000. That's the change in your assets or equity on the modified accrual basis. And it's a different basis of accounting, a different way of looking at things. Okay? The primary difference is that you capitalized your assets on the government-wide financial statement and you expense them on the fund financial statement. That was the big difference. That was the big thing that made such a difference in your net income between the two. Finally, I'm going to flip over to one more statement and talk about it just briefly. Begins on page 25. And this is your budget comparison statement, and it's on the modified accrual basis of accounting. It's just essentially cash in and cash out. And the column I like to look at is the one on the far right-hand side. It's the pluses and minuses. The minuses are the ones with brackets, and you want to stay away from those. Those are the ones that you get worried about. This year, if you look at the total over on page 28, about halfway up the page, there's a figure of $549,000. That's your positive budget variance for the year. That means that all the revenues and expenses were considered. You came in $549,000 better than you had budgeted to do. Now, I'm sure that's all you guys ever wanted to know about governmental accounting and then some. But I would be happy to entertain any questions that you have. Actually, Mr. Anker would be happy to entertain any questions you have.
I want to thank you, first of all, for one of the most easily understood presentations that I've ever heard on this subject. So thank you very, very much for that. We've seen a lot of these, and we understand parts of them, and you have made it much more clear, and we appreciate that. Now, are there any questions that need to be asked, Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, sir. Not offensively saying this, but you omitted my name. I'm James Hubbard, Ward 1.
I'm sorry.
So, but other than that, the report was okay.
Thank you. I'm very sorry.
Mr. Ellis.
On page 16, under general revenues, be sure that I understand this correctly. 3.3 million of property tax. I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
5.6 million of sales tax. Now, is the 680,000 in parentheses, is that where we transferred money out of, what do I want to say?
It's where you transfer money out of the utility
Out of
districts
utilities.
over to the government.
Okay. Does anywhere in this budget show that we spent any surplus money in the operation of the budget? Would you know that or not?
Spend any?
Oh, now, I guess I'm saying if we did not get enough revenue to fund our expenditures.
Yes, sir. There is a place that shows you that.
Your fund balance.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that's the word.
it's a change in the fund balance. It is on page 19.
The difference of about $470,000 or $80,000.
480 on the general fund, but you have positive fund balances on the capital improvements and your non-major funds. So the net's the negative 64 that I talked about, but on the general fund, you dipped into reserves by 483,000 and change. It's on page 19, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm a little slow.
It's down toward the bottom, about 3 lines up.
Those 4.4 million are ending fund balance in the general fund? Is that-
In the general fund, 4.4 million is your ending fund balance. Yes, sir.
It's not really the operating fund balance, though, that we use cash. It's actually less than that.
What would be the difference?
It would be about 2.6 million would be our operating fund balance, something like that.
I mean, how do you reconcile it? Where's the other funds? Is it restricted funds?
Well, as,
Yeah, you've got some other, when you're talking about fund balance and available cash, you're talking about
Yeah,
two
two
different
different
animals, I
things,
think.
right.
If you're talking about available cash, fund balance incorporates, even on a modified accrual basis of accounting, it incorporates some receivables that you're going to collect in the next 60 days, and incorporates your payables into that. So the fund balance is, it's kind of like the equity in your home. You've got the asset value, which is some of the receivables and the cash and some of the other stuff, and then you've got the loan balance out there, which is your accounts payable and stuff, and then the equity is the difference between those two. So the equity is not exactly going to equal the cash. It's going to be something less than that, generally speaking, or something different than that.
But when we quote the fund balance, you know, we've been dealing with the difference between last year and this year, you heard outlined, but you take the total thing, the total net assets, were on the positive.
Yeah, and well, your total net assets on a fund basis, on just the modified accrual basis of accounting, where you're simplifying things, cash in and cash out, you decreased your fund balance by about $66,000 overall in your governmental funds for the year ended 2012. Now, on the overall financial picture, when you're looking at it from just a government-wide financial basis, on the full accrual basis accounting, which means rather than expensing those assets you buy and putting the debt on the books, you recognize the debt as income. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm turning myself around here. When you look at your government-wide financial statements, which you put your assets on the books rather than expense those, so they don't come out of fund balance until you depreciate them. You put your debt on the books, full accrual basis, just like a regular corporation does. Your fund balance improved by $1.4 million. The difference primarily is in your assets last year. You bought about $2.5–3 million of assets last year. On the fund financials, which is what you're talking about, those got expensed. On the government-wide, they got capitalized. And that makes a big difference if you're putting them on the books as an asset versus writing them off as money out the door. And so that's the big difference between those two pictures.
Are there other comments, questions, Ann?
and I guess my question is directed at Mr. Nutting or Ms. Murphy. The findings you found where dual control was not going on between the reconciling and taking the money to the bank, has that been corrected?
Well, we have, of course, we have compensating controls on that, but there are cases of where we have to rotate around because,
Sometimes organizations just do not have enough people to get by.
That's really not an excuse. We don't.
well.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be ugly, but that's,
Yeah.
I have that in the
Actually-
banking industry.
Well, but actually, when we have vacations and sick, and, I mean, there
Right.
can be opportunities when we need for the same person to end up going to the bank that reconciles the bank statement.
And in that case, can we have somebody from a different department maybe stepping in? Do we have
We
somebody
need
else
to,
to?
we need to talk about that, yeah. But we can come up with,
Yeah.
a different method. of
I'd like to
doing that.
protect that person because that person taking that money to the bank is not, they shouldn't be doing that.
Of course, we always have a police escort to the bank anyway, so they're never going by themselves.
But then when you come up with some situation, then that person's protected.
Of course.
Yeah. That really concerns me.
Mr. Allen. So what you're saying is we actually reduced our general fund, fund balance by $66,000 last year.
No, you reduced the general fund by about $483,000 last year. Your total government funds, which includes a couple of three other funds, your special revenue funds and your capital projects funds, the total, all your government funds you reduced by 66. General fund you reduced by 483.
Basically, the money that we budgeted for reserve to spend, we spent almost all of it.
Okay, anything further?
What about this, Billy? You're gonna mention this,
He did that as
He
issue.
already mentioned.
what?
That was the letter to start with.
That's what I tried. What do the people here know what this says about the use of the technology, the internet, and that the city can go look at their computer whenever they want to, depending on what's going out?
Oh,
Paul?
I don't know what you're
Well, it just basically says here, and I think I'm reading, let me find it. It had to do with use of the technology and what was being, what the computers were being used for, the city computers, and that the city had the right to review those at any time.
I think that's a different.
That's a different.
So I'm reading the wrong one.
Yes, sir.
This
Yes,
is
sir.
it right here.
yeah.
That's the reason I couldn't
That's a
find it.
different thing.
Sorry.
See, it's
All right.
getting complicated.
You're not involved with that.
Not
That-
that.
that's
Thank you.
We thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have a policy dealing with that?
Yes, yes, we do. That's what you're holding. That's the policy.
You are holding the
They gave me
policy
too
to
many
deal with.
papers. My mind can't.
Remember some school board meetings sometimes.
Yep.
You passing around too. All right, 1.3 is approval of the minutes from the December the 18th meeting. Is there a motion they be approved?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Any questions or comments? If you would favor the approval of these minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. And now we move to 2.1, the first item under the legislative portion of the agenda. This is a third and final reading. This ordinance establishes a fee in the amount of $4 to obtain from the Springfield Police Department traffic accident reports online through Carfax. We've discussed this for 2 meetings prior to this one, and it's ready now for final approval. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Snyder,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Ellis,
Aye.
Cornell,
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Has 6-0.
Thank you. 2.2. This is a first reading to discuss and possibly take action on ordinance 13-01. This ordinance would rezone the property at 801 Memorial Boulevard from CC Core Commercial to CG Commercial General. This property owned by Bruce Head. Is there a motion this be considered?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Now, Ms. Murphy, would you read that proposed ordinance?
Ordinance 1301, an ordinance rezoning the Bruce Head property located at 801 Memorial Boulevard from CC Core Commercial to CG Commercial General. Whereas Mr. Bruce Head has requested that properties he owns, parcels 40 and 41, Group D, map 80J, of the tax maps of Robertson County, Tennessee, be rezoned from CC Core Commercial to CG Commercial General, and whereas the Springfield Planning Commission reviewed the request at its December the 6th, 2012 meeting and recommends that the property rezoned from CC to CG. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Section 1, parcels 40 and 41, Group D, map 80J of the tax maps of Robertson County, Tennessee, and further described in Exhibit A attached, are hereby rezoned from CC Core Commercial to CG Commercial General. Section 2, All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Thank you, Jane. I'll ask George James, our planning director, to explain what this issue actually involves.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gina Head is here with us, and you might want to pose some of your questions to Gina. I was out 3 weeks with my wife's surgery, and she was here during that time and may remember something about this that I didn't. Gina, you want to stand up here with me, or just sit back there? Bruce Head's property on Memorial Boulevard. Bruce did not approach us about this rezoning. We looked at it. Matter of fact, Gina noticed it, started looking at it when the Cub Cadets were moved in, and said, is this the proper zoning for his property because of these uses that he has on his lot? So we studied it and went to talk to Bruce and asked him. We thought that CG, Commercial General, would be a better use for him since he would require some outdoor storage on these things. And so we talked to Bruce, and he agreed that that was a good idea. So he submitted a request to have this property rezoned from CC, which is core commercial, to CG, Commercial General. Normally, and I don't know how this happened, the core commercial is the downtown district. It does not require any side yards. You can build lot line to lot line. It does not require parking. The parking is provided by the city on the streets and in city parking lots and other lots that businesses might lease. But for some reason, when this zoning ordinance was done, the drawers of this zoning ordinance, I guess it was in 1980 when your zoning ordinance was updated, or before that time, somehow they took the core commercial really needs to start at Locust and then be on either side of Main Street, come down to Willa, and be on either side of Willa, and should have stopped there. But for some reason, when they did this zoning, they carried the core commercial zone on down to 2 blocks on Memorial. And we said, well, you know, that's just not an appropriate zoning for Memorial with the traffic it has and the type of businesses that use that. That should be zoned a core commercial, a highway commercial zone, and we have 2 of them. We have CG, Commercial General, and then CS and CG, which are the 2 commercial zones. The CG does allow some outdoor display of merchandise, so we thought, you know, that would be a good zone. We took this recommendation to the Planning Commission. I think it was in November, wasn't it, Gina? When? Yeah, in November, and talked to them about it, and they said, well, you know, we still see some things down there that he needs to rearrange. And so they came up with some ideas, and we talked to Bruce, and he agreed to make some of these changes. One was moving some U-Haul trucks he had to the side property he owns, backs up there to the warehouse, and that made it look a lot better. And so the tractors, we talked about those and what it would take in order for him to be able to show them outside. So we recommended that it be rezoned CG. But the Planning Commission, at the first meeting, they postponed it. They said, we want to talk to him about some things he needs to do about his business and about how he's displaying his merchandise. So Bruce, we took their ideas to Bruce and talked to him, and Bruce said, I'll fix it. And he did, and by the time it came back to the planning commission, they met on it, and of course I wasn't here because of my wife, but Gina was there at the meeting, and they had 7 members there. And they voted unanimously to recommend it be rezoned CG. So that's how we got here. This is the story of how we got here. At some point, those 2 blocks need to be reconsidered for some kind of highway commercial zoning. There's some things down there which just fit fine, like the 2 drugstores, CVS and Springfield Drug and stuff like that, in the downtown district. And the furniture store is a downtown use. And furniture stores have traditionally carried, items like lawnmowers and so forth. So it wasn't far off, but there needed some cleanup on the lot, we thought. So that's where we talked to Bruce. He straightened a lot of it out. The planning commission voted to rezone it, and that's where we stand.
Could you show the map?
Huh?
Could you show the map?
Okay, yeah.
May I make a comment, since I'm
Go
part of the
ahead,
planning
Mr.
commission? We thought, as in calibration, looking at Mr. Heads and all of that memorial quarter, to change it back to CG.
There's really 2 blocks.
It's really 2 blocks, so it wasn't fair.
Kind of highway commercial.
True, it wasn't fair to him to be penalized with the CC, so that was our general consensus. Let's overlook the whole.
But you're only
Gina and I were
proposing-
really surprised that was on core commercial, like the downtown area.
It should have been changed years
Because
ago.
we
That was our consensus.
Have never had, this is the first time we've had any kind of request for rezoning in that area.
It really just need to be cleaned up, basically all the way down from
Right.
Willow down, and then, there are other properties that we can look at possibly rezoning at some point. It's just that this is sort of just a cleanup issue because of when they rezoned it back in 1990, zoned it, when the zoning ordinance was done, they took it all the way down to Memorial. And normally you would have stopped up there at Willow and just had the other either CS or CG. So that, when you get past the railroad trestle, when you go under the railroad trestle, everything past that towards south is basically CS. There might be one little section like a Cunningham is CG, but most everything down through there is either CS for the most part or CG. The only portion that is CC all the way down to Memorial is in that little area right there.
But we're dealing now with only these 2 parcels.
Yes, sir.
which you
We're
said
only
of.
dealing with these 2 properties right now.
But you are planning to take a look at some of that other to make it more appropriate?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
That basically involves, as we move east, you pass Willow Street, you're talking about Hill Street, and then down to Memorial.
Yes, sir.
All right.
That's the recommendation of the
2
planning
blocks are
commission.
from 5th to 9th, I believe
Right.
it is. It's really 2 blocks, but the numbers show it more. But I'll show you on the map a little bit of what we've got. Well, let me display this.
Tell you what, if you would, why don't you take one end and Gina take the other, and we can see from
That
there.
ought to work.
Hope we do that. Let's turn it the way it goes down the hill there, yeah. Now, this is Bruce's property right here. And all this property, from right in here, all the way to Fifth, is owned in the core commercial district. And so is this right here. I didn't color it, but this is on CG here. But this is core commercial. This is core commercial on this side of Main, between Main and Locust is core commercial, typical downtown property. For some reason though, they brought this district on down here and carried it from about 9th Avenue down to 5th. And we really need to consider rezoning some of this property to highway commercial.
Okay.
Because that's our major corridor and it should be rezoned. So anyway, that's what we're talking about, and I hope.
All right.
So,
Everybody understand what we're, okay, with the issues. Paul?
So we want to make the point, it's not spot zoning. You're taking the CG running down
No,
from somewhere else.
yeah, see, this property here is core commercial. It fits there. There's core commercial here across the street. This is CS. It's highway commercial. That little spot is a used car.
Well, the
lot across the
CG
street.
district starts up. You're changing from CC to CG.
To CG.
So the purple area is just an extension of CG that's just on the next block.
Right.
So I just want to make the point, it's not spot zoning.
No, no, no.
It's not spot
I mean,
zoning.
it's all commercial zoning anyway, but you're just taking, but that is not.
Going from one classification to another.
Right.
And we don't think that, you know, any business that goes on Memorial should follow the highway district guidelines, which require setbacks and parking and these other things
That you wouldn't.
are not required up here in the core commercial.
All right, thank you very much.
One quick question.
Sure, please.
Everybody south of the railroad trestle is zoned what?
Pretty much CS,
CS?
CS, which is commercial services.
Okay,
And
explain CS versus what we're wanting to do here.
Commercial services is a more, it allows for more things to be in that zone district. CG is a little more limited. CG does allow outdoor storage where CS, commercial services, does not allow outdoor storage. So there's just, we have, in the book, we have our classifications or the activities, and then you go to the classifications, and it just allows you more in the CS than it does in the CG.
Thank you.
All right, everybody understand what we're voting on?
Call for questions.
All right, questions been called for. Vote your preference when your name is called.
Cornell,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Head,
Okay.
Snyder,
Aye.
Mason,
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Has 5-0 with 1 abstention.
Mr. Head did not vote as he is the owner of the property. All right, 2.3 is our next item for consideration. That is in regard to Resolution 13-01. This resolution authorizes the issuance of not to exceed $11,600,000 of general obligation public improvement bonds of the city of Springfield. Is there a motion this be considered?
So moved.
Second?
The motion's been made and seconded.
Second.
You see the items. Let me go over this for those that are present and for those that will be watching. The primary use of this money is for sanitary sewer system improvements, which are required now by the Environmental Protection Agency. $6 million of this issue is for that purpose. $2.6 million is for facility design improvements for the Water and Wastewater Department headquarters and shop on Central Avenue. $1.3 million is for Highway 41 South Sewer Extension, Phase 2. And all of that totals in the area of sewer and water, $9.9 million. The remainder of this issue is as follows. The replacement of our animal control facility, $400,000. New HVAC units and roofing at the center. That was $416,000. An elevator to be installed at the center for $101,000 is the estimate. New sidewalks and trails at Travis Price Park, $142,000. A sidewalk which connects the baseball field to the soccer field, $25,000. Citywide sidewalk construction, $250,000. And expansion of athletic facilities at Springfield High School. This is primarily, I think, baseball and softball, $125,000. So the total of those items that I've just now listed is $1,459,000. all of it together with the earlier items that were mentioned under water and sewer totals $11,359,000. And the bond itself is 11.6 million. All right, you've got the matter before you. It's been discussed at several meetings, and you have suggested these items that were to be added to it, and they have been included. Is there any further discussion?
I have,
These items will come back, these specific items will come back before they're funded, is that?
Well, you'll have to approve all the projects. As you know, we've already begun the sanitary sewer system improvements. We've retained them, but we haven't bid on the major construction portion of the project yet. Water wastewater department facility design, of course, is a contract with Hastings on the agenda tonight. Highway 41 South sewer. When we did annexation years ago, you have to make sewer available to every segment of your annexation, and that is the last phase on 41 South that has to be constructed. And that will probably not take place immediately, but shortly within the next year or so. And then the others will be as the board authorizes those project contracts to be awarded and designed. So once you pass this resolution tonight, you've wrapped up the amounts. It's firm.
That answer your question? Yes. Other questions?
Has anyone ever discussed or tried to determine us spending, when we spend $7.3 million on sewer improvements and sewer extension, what's that going to do to our rates?
Well, it's going to put them up considerably.
That is absolutely true, and that is going to have to be worked out. Of course, the actual decision to do this, it's a matter of, it's required. It has to be done for us to continue to operate and provide services. And we have no choice in that as far as the sewer improvements.
What would be what's an annual payment on a note, 20-year note, whatever it is, 2.3%, 2.5, whatever, for $10 million? That's how much we're talking about. Does anybody know that?
Well, we're just going to the schedule here and see if we can.
I think Ashley may have some.
Okay.
Let's see on it. Can you answer
Mr.
that?
McAnulty may have that.
Okay, I'll let Cody if there's any other questions. The annual debt service on the $11,600,000 is $750,000 approximately in the current interest rate market. That would be at the 2.5% interest rate, fixed interest rate for the life of the issue, and that would be a 20-year issue to 2033.
Mr. Levasters, has any estimate, do you have an estimate of what the percentage that sewer rates would go up in order to do this?
The engineer,
Approximate.
Smith and Partners, we hired them to manage the EPA administrative board. Part of their requirements are to look at funding sources and what it's going to cost, and they've not got that far yet.
Okay. But that will be coming about fairly soon.
Is it going to be coming before we vote on it again? Or do we have to vote on it?
This is a resolution. You'll be voting on it one time.
Mr. Mayor,
Well, let me be sure we've answered it.
your question is open.
Do you understand what we're saying there, Jerome?
Okay.
Now, Mr. Hubbard.
This is to some perceive it as a very insurmountable amount of money. But a lot of items on here we have procrastinated, and now it's time to move forward. We have to. Highway 41 South Sewer, we're behind on that. Animal control facilities, dogs running rampant, which I'm getting tired of 9 or 10 in my area. So stuff like that, we have to move on it. We either do it now or pay the piper later.
All right, anything further?
Well, for example, in general fund, because that's 12.84 of 750,000, 10% is 75,000, a little more than that. 80-something thousand would be general funds portion. Then you're going to take, everything's going to be sewer on the top side at 87.16, with the exception of 60% of the 2.6 million. So you're going to be having several funding sources. You're going to have a general fund tax source on 12.84%, and then water and sewer rates are going to absorb the 87.16, more on the sewer rates than on the water rates. And so you're going to look at, at least probably this year to get started, at least another 8% or 10% increase in probably sewer rates, which are still, fairly manageable. We don't have extremely high sewer rates.
Not at all. Some of the lowest in the state.
But you are going to have to increase rates probably at least a couple years in a row.
All right. Are there other comments before we call for the question? Motion in a second.
We did.
All right. Hearing none, let's call for the question.
Ellis,
No.
Head,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Snyder. Cornell,
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Passed 5-0.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McNeil. All right, resolution now 1302 authorizes the issuance of the 11 million. Are we being redundant
No,
with this?
no, they're
Okay.
two-
They are simple. They are so similar. This resolution differs from the other one, and by going further, it provides for the bonds, establishes certain terms thereof, et cetera. In order, it takes these two resolutions to get this project moving. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, now you're dealing with Resolution 1302. Any comments before we vote? Please call the roll, Ms. James.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Okay. Now to 2.5, this is Resolution 1303. This resolution would authorize the city attorney to collect a surety bond in the amount of $85,765 from Electrolux Corporation unless a replacement bond in the amount of $85,765 is presented within 24 hours of the expiration date of February the 28th of 2013. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Nutty, will you explain what this is for?
Well, it's simply just to remove, is it on the driveway, George, or the parking lot?
Parking lot.
Parking lot.
That they've been promising to do for some time.
All right.
The planning board, after, a collaborative effort with them, decided in good faith that it would work. So I decided to pass it.
Any comments before we move on this? Motion and a second?
Yes.
All right. Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Cornell.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
All right, 2.6 has Resolution 1304. This resolution changes the name of a small portion of Kelton Jackson Road lying between New Hope Lane and the south side of Parcel 12, Group A of Map 91-E of the tax maps of Robertson County, Tennessee. Is there a motion that this change be effected?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Planning and zoning, did you all deal
Yes, sir.
with this? And you want to elaborate on that, Mr. James?
That's a short section of Kelton Jackson that was bypassed, but it was still on our city street. And E911 came to us, they're doing some property numbering, and they wanted to name that as a part of the New Hope Lane, which goes adjacent to this street. And that's the way they wanted to number it. So, since we own the street, it was our responsibility to name it. We're not obligated to do anything else, but
This is pursuant to their request.
it's pursuant to the 911 property numbering request.
All right. Thank you, sir. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How many households will be affected? How many?
There's two, only two. One is the U-Haul business up there, and there's another house past it that it'd just be two houses.
Are they aware of this?
They've already changed the number, but they just wanted us to rename the street. And they've dealt with the property owners on it.
Okay.
All right. Hearing nothing further, we'll call the roll.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder. Pass 6-0.
Okay, 2.7 is in regard to Resolution 13-05. This would declare certain property as surplus and authorize the disposal of such property. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. You have the list. Are there any questions about any of this? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Snyder. Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
2.8 is to discuss and possibly take action on Resolution 13-06. This would approve a proposal from the Tennessee Department of Transportation pertaining to the construction of a portion of State Highway 65, which we know as Highway 431 South, the Tom Austin Highway, from Old 431 to Walling Road. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, specifically, what does, Mr. Allen Ellis, do you know what this does?
It's just all the different agreements such as utilities. If they run into any of our property, we're supposed to donate the property, saying that we would be obligated to do any corrections such as that. And we would take care of the utilities if they're in their way or in on their property. It's a standard form, but keep in mind, this is outside the city. This is not inside.
Immediately outside the city.
Right.
All right, where does this, the project that we've discussed for so many, not months, but years,
It stops at Wallen Road.
okay, but,
This picks up there.
okay, but the project as we know it from the creek all the way to 41, there by Walgreens, where does the widening of that stand on the state's list? Is the funding, has the funding been made available for this?
What we understand, Paul can tell you more about it, it is in the 3-year plan, which goes through 15, I believe.
It's on the plan of work for 2014, and I think we're the third priority in MPO, so that's pretty good for us. We usually don't sit that high with a project. Of course, this project's been going
about
on
10
for
years.
about 8 years,
At least
9
10
years.
years.
Some of us are growing old
Yeah.
waiting on
I won't-
this project, I'll tell you. It's certainly needed. Try to pull out on 431 sometime in the afternoon and see how we're in the morning. All right, have a motion and a second. All right. Any comment on this?
I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Ellis.
This starts at Walling Road and goes south to, well, wherever, I don't care where it goes.
Old 431.
I know that some homes along 431 on the east side have been notified that they're going to take their homes. And you shake your head yes or no, whichever. But that's what they say. Now, they're going to have our water line in there. When and the two that I heard from, just happened to be friends, they're the first two houses as you turn on to Batson and turn right back to the right.
To go south on
The
Old
first
431.
two homes the state is going to take, they're going to have to move. And it was my understanding, not that it matters, we'll all be dead and gone anyway by the time they build this, that they were going to stay within their right of way. So we've gone and built a a water line on private property, and the state's gonna come in there and take it. They're gonna take the property. And that part is true.
All right, I'm gonna ask Mr. Roger Lemasters, Director of the Wastewater Department, to add to this discussion.
TDOT is going to be expanding Tom Austin Highway. This that we're talking about right now will start at Walling Road and go south. Old 431 comes in several times, but this is the one where you get farther beyond that gas station down there where you get the wide shoulders and they basically disappear. That's quite a ways down there. What they're going to do is to purchase, and they may be in the process of purchasing more right-of-way all on the east side of Tom Austin Highway. They're going to purchase anywhere from another 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 feet of right-of-way from people. And there are some houses that they're going to they'll have to demolish some houses. There's a lot of places the right-of-way will come within 10 or 15 feet of existing houses. We put our water line, this 20-inch line, on private property all the way down to where the tank site is, and then also on Simply Mulch and More, and then we angled back onto TDOT property to get where our existing 20-inch water line was there. TDOT, when they purchase this property and they come through and they're going to expand that highway, because we put it on private property, the water line will have to be moved, because where the water line is now will basically be under the northbound lane of the expanded highway. The highway is going to go from 2-lane to two lanes with a 50-foot grassy median. So since we put it on private property, they will have to pay the cost for moving that 20-inch water line from where it is now to where it'll be off their property later. And that's what this letter says. TDOT has designated all of the utility relocations from Walling Road down to Old 431 as what they call Section 86, which means if we move the water line, we can get reimbursed for all our costs. The alternative would be whenever they hire a contractor to expand that highway all the way down, plans and specifications will be developed and the contractor will hire a subcontractor to move that water line where we won't be at any cost at all. Now, if we move it, we'll incur expenses, we'll have to keep records, then we'll have to submit invoices to TDOT to get reimbursed. I would much rather have the contractor do it and thus not be adding anything at all. And that's what this letter is. They're notifying us, here's where we're going to be. We want to know what you have in the way. We've got that 20-inch water line that will be in the way. We have several places where we have water lines across under 431. Some of those may have to be relocated too. But the bulk of the water line that has to be moved, TDOT will do that at their expense.
All right, now let me ask you a question. We're referring to the section there from Walling Road all the way south to where the old 431 comes in. Are you talking
From the
about
west.
clear on down at Mount Sharon Church?
Further beyond, no. The one further on down where it comes in from the west,
We're coming from Corporate Town.
where it kind of angles in at an angle, as opposed to right angle, it kind of merges in.
Okay.
That's before you drop off and go down to the golf course.
All right, that's the entire section.
Yes, sir.
Of the already improved
Yes.
431.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Who knows? They may do that one before they ever widen the part in the city limits. So we'll see.
Yes, sir.
How far they miss our tank? It'll barely be off.
Our tank will be okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's far enough away.
news.
When you go out to Simply Mulch and More, and they have some of those concrete block areas where they have the mulch kind of piled up in there.
Okay.
The new right-of-way will go within about 10 feet of where those first rows of concrete blocks are. And our tank is further off.
Further.
Yes.
Okay. That's all good news. Thank you, Roger.
They knew all along when we started our tank and water line years ago that we were going there, and they gave us permission to do it. And then they came back, and then, we've waited how many years just to get a segment widened?
10.
Now they come back last year, and they're gonna do another segment. Well, once that line's there, it's their problem. And they're certainly not gonna remove a water tank.
No. All right, we have this resolution. You've heard the discussion. Anything further? Please call the roll.
Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Mason. Ellis.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Okay, now we move to the administrative portion of the agenda. We have a report now, 3.1, from the Robertson County YMCA on the after-school program that we are helping to, that we are funding largely. We welcome you to our meeting tonight.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm Courtney Woodard from the Robertson County
Okay,
Family
Courtney,
YMCA.
good to see you.
How you doing?
Fine. Go ahead, sir.
All right. As of right now, we have, we started November 5th programming, and we had 36 kids on the roster. Our target was 50, and we're still shooting for that target. But right now, 36 is all we could come up with. There's been some ups and downs, you know, dealing with this population, but we're definitely making headway. So the kids were selected by counselors, teachers, principal. So they are the ones who are in need of the most support, mentorship. So that's what we're doing right now. And like I said, it's, we program from the 5th of November to December 13th. So about 6 weeks.
All right, these are from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade?
Yes.
Okay. And how long do you work with them each afternoon?
We start programming at 3 o'clock. As soon as they let out of school, we start programming.
And that's until?
6 o'clock.
Till 6 o'clock?
Yes.
All right, is this Monday through Thursday?
Monday through Thursday, yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Is it more recreational, or are you including tutorials and stuff like that?
It is, I mean, we do have recreation at the end, because I do believe that they need to be active, and hopefully that'll cut down on some of their.
Okay, the behavioral.
Yeah, behavioral pieces.
Good.
But,
That's the main thing.
Yeah, we are implementing leadership, life skills,
Good.
anything we can implement, anything that's gonna show these kids a different way of life. That's what
Okay.
we're implementing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We appreciate that report.
Thank you.
Keep us posted.
Will do.
Okay, all right. All right, Mr. Nutty.
Mayor, I think one of the purposes of this is to authorize the board to pay, as you know, we've authorized $20,000 for this program, and they're seeking authorization for, to receive $4,581.22 based on, of the 20,000, based on the invoices that Mr. Woodard has presented tonight.
All right,
And I would recommend payment of that.
Okay. So you're asking that that the report that he has just given, the period of time that the reimbursement for that is now is authorized. Is that what you're saying?
For you to authorize
That's
that,
authorized.
yes.
All right. Have a motion and a second that authorization be given to the board.
Yes, the motion include the payment on invoices.
$4,500 and some dollars. All right. Any discussion? Please call the roll. No, I mean, we're short a second.
Second.
Mr. Ellis is seconded. Now we're ready to go.
Okay. Ellis?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Snyder?
I will abstain, I'm on the board.
Cornell?
Aye.
Mason?
Aye.
Passed 5-0 and 1 abstain.
All right. You ready to go?
Thank you so much.
Paid, sir.
3.2 will be the monthly request for an adjustment in retail electric rates from Springfield Electric due to a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by TVA. Mr. Gardner is not with us. Do you want to make that report, Mr. Phelps? Do you know what that percentage is, James?
3.4% is the decrease.
3.4% decrease. All right. Is there a motion that decrease be approved?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Anybody want to argue about that?
No, ma'am. No, sir.
Okay. Let's go forward with it. Please call the roll.
Okay. Ellis?
Aye.
Mason?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
All right. Similarly, we have under 3.3, the monthly adjustment of gas rates. Mr. Hall?
We went up 1.5 cents.
1.5. Well,
Before the adjustment.
okay. All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. All right. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Cornell.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Has 6-0.
All right. 3.4, Mr. Nutty.
Mayor, relative to 3.3, I did want to make it, draw to your attention that Ms. Murphy did give you a discount schedule. We are discounting gas rates for the January billing. So, as you know, board authorized $1 million to be discounted to our customers during the fiscal year. $900,000 was to be to residential customers, $100,000 to small commercial customers. So those discounts, you'll be seeing them on the bills this month. It's about a third of the $1 million for each customer class. So depending on how cold it gets, we may have a higher billing in February, but by March, we should have the discounts paid off, Mayor.
Very good. All right. We're glad to hear that. Okay, we have, under 3.4, we have some members to serve on the Planning Commission. Who have we got before us tonight? Let's see. Ms. Cynthia Burkeen from Ward 6. Did Mr. Sneed say he had discussed that?
I think Mr. Sneed does have somebody other that he wants to
So
recommend.
let's skip that then. And my appointee for the Planning and Zoning, from the Planning Commission is Wanda Mason, and I would like for her to be reappointed.
Move for?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion to accept Ms. Mason on the Planning Commission.
Second. Second. All right, seconded by Mr. Ellis. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Has 6-0.
All right, now we have 3.7, which is a request by the business that's leasing the city-owned warehouse at 200 9th Avenue East to credit the first 2 months of the lease payments in the amount of $1,500 to assist with costs for improvement to the building.
I think you jumped a couple.
Oh, did I? Excuse me.
Adult entertainment.
Oh, I see now. As I move this page on this wonderful iPad, I didn't look too fast. Well, I don't want to leave anything out. All right, 3.5, is that where we are now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to appoint members to serve on the Adult Entertainment Board. And we're showing a vacancy on Ward 4. Is that still the same?
No, there's Mary Nell Miller
Okay,
is my appointment.
all right. And then Ms. Betty Moore for Ward 6. And is he?
I haven't heard about
I
that.
spoke with Clay this afternoon about that, and he wants to appoint Mark Harris for Ward 6.
Okay,
Okay.
Mark Harris. So you're making that nomination
I
in
am.
for him, all right? And then you've got Mary Nell Miller for Ward 4, all right. Who is going to formally did you all both make those motions there? Is there a second to those?
Move for approval of the two names.
Second. All right, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Snyder.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Has 6-0.
Okay. Now, 3.6 is members to serve on the Housing Authority Board. Let's see what changes we have. Mr. Eddie Stewart's term on the Housing Authority expired at the end of 2012. He is a police officer, has been arrested, but no longer lives there. Mr. Hudson, the Housing Authority Director, is recommending Randy Henderson, a current resident, to fill that position currently held by Mr. Stewart. It'll be a 5-year term. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Cornell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Has 6-0.
Okay. Now we're ready for the one that I skipped down to already. 3.7. 3.7 is the request by the business to whom we have leased or they are leasing rather, our warehouse at 200 9th Avenue East. They would like the first 2 lease payments in the amount of $1,500 to be credited based on the improvements they have made to the building thus far. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this tenant not aware of the required improvements when they leased?
They just didn't know they were going to have, they knew they were going to have to do the electrical work and the plumbing and do the restroom. I think they weren't aware of the cost of the water tap, the sewer tap, and that they would have to get an engineer involved. So they didn't realize it was going to be $4,500, and they're asking for a credit at $1,500.
Gina, is there also, did they assume that the water and sewer taps were already there?
Yes,
there were
because it's a
bathrooms?
building that's been used.
And they weren't.
But there weren't any restroom facilities in there?
Apparently nothing that's to codes.
So, I mean, if there weren't facilities there, I wouldn't assume.
There were lines there, but according to our codes department, there was nothing there that was up to codes. And so they're having to do it to bring it up to codes.
So if there
Of
was a
course.
water line there, wouldn't there be a tap there?
That's what they thought. But it's been checked and apparently not.
Yeah. Well, it's a warehouse. It hadn't had anybody working in it for probably at least a decade or more. So there's probably no reason to have the sewer. It may have had water and sewer at one point, but obviously probably was disconnected.
The building's going to be demolished anyway, probably.
Right. So the water and sewer taps should be no good to us in the future.
Not unless we decide to keep the outside of the structure for the police department when it expands, and then we could keep the taps.
And if this tenant wasn't rented from the city, we wouldn't be considered this.
Probably not. It's our property, right?
Are you satisfied with that? Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second, I believe. Please call the roll.
Ellis? Head?
No?
Hubbard?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Mason?
Aye.
Passed 5-1.
All right, 3.8 is to discuss and possibly take action on the change order, which has been requested by the gas department for the Highway 431 South project from 41 South to Highway 257. Is there a motion?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ellis?
Aye.
Mason?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Okay, and now 3.9 is to discuss and possibly take action on authorizing negotiations for the acquisition of properties on Queen Anne Court. Is there a motion this be considered?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Allen Ellis, Public Works Director.
As you know, back last fall, we got appraisals from Ms. Carol Croft and Associates. We've been waiting till the bond money has come in, and now we have a design from the engineering company says that we at least need the backyards or the houses. At least the last design even showed the houses for these 3 properties. So what I'm proposing tonight is just using the appraisals that we have Ms. Croft to start negotiations so we can have something for you next month.
All right, this is the authorization to begin negotiations.
Yes, which hopefully will have something by next month to present. Y'all keep in mind that what we're trying to do is build enough area there to store the water. There is no way of getting rid of the water. So just keep that in mind.
Most recent rains have reaffirmed that.
And reaffirmed, we removed, according to the engineers, 16,500 cubic yards on the north side. You may have seen that during the summer. The city did that. which has helped the situation, but they still say, the plan that I have, we still need more area on the south side to contain the 100-year storm, which we're trying to get. Figuring the sinkhole taking 0 water. That's what we have to figure just in case. I still would like to see later on, after we get this built, a pump system employed to where we can lower it faster.
All right, the proposal is to authorize the negotiations. That has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Cornell?
Aye.
Ellis?
Aye.
Mason?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
That's 6-0.
3.10 is to discuss and possibly take action on Alderman Hubbard's request to attend the National League of Cities Congressional Cities Conference in Washington, D.C. in March. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, Paul, did you have anything to say? All right, the motion is before you. It's been seconded. Any further comment? Please call the roll.
Mason?
Aye.
Ellis?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Can I vote? No, I abstain.
It would be better if you abstained.
Head?
You think it's going to be close vote?
Yeah.
Head?
Yes.
Thank you, Bruce.
Snyder?
Aye.
And the count?
Passed 5-0 and 1.
All right.
Abstain.
Mr. Hubbard is on several committees there and is actively involved as our representative.
Can I thank him? I thank you
National
all.
League of Cities.
I thank you all.
311 now is to discuss and possibly take action on a proposal from Hastings Architecture and Associates for the design and improvements of the building that we have purchased on Precision Products Building on Central for use by the water and wastewater department. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Duly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Nutty?
Mayor, the standard AIA contract before you is the contract. We have talked to Hastings, and we are going to require, well, at least one small change on our part, and they've requested a change on their part, and I'll ask Roger to brief you on those 2 small changes. What we'll be doing is approving the contract as submitted in substantially the form submitted with the incorporated changes.
I had asked Jim Balther to review this, and the only thing that he really came up with is there's 2 places in here where they talk about liabilities and limitations. And on page 3, they say their professional liability is in the amount of $1 million. And then back on page 16, excuse me, yes, page 16, yes. They have a different one that says the architects, its officers, directors, employees, and sub-consultants shall have a combined limitation of liability equal to the total for services rendered or $250,000, whichever is greater. I talked with David Bailey, who is one of the principals of the firm, and he is agreeable to changing that latter part where it says $250 to $1 million. He said that would confirm what they had earlier in the contract, so they're agreeable to doing that. The only other change that Jim had mentioned was this is our standard contract for AIA, and then each architectural company will modify it to fit their needs. So every time you see a bar in the left-hand column, that's where the standard contract was modified to fit the specific situation. So that's basically I mean, if you look through, there's a bunch of bars in there, but that's where they tailored it specific to us. Now they have indicated in there on page 15 that their compensation will be $197,300. That's what they projected when we first talked with them a little over a year ago. I think it was November 2011. So they're going to stay at that same compensation amount. So they are agreeable. Now when I talked with David Bailey, he said he was going to overnight some final contract with all their signatures, so we could get signatures tonight, but we just haven't got it in.
Mr. Masters, roughly, do you recall what the square footage is proposed for this project as we rehabilitate this facility?
The existing Precision Products building has about 30,000 square feet. About 27,000 of it is the manufacturing area and about 3,000 square feet up front. So it's about 3 times the roof area as opposed to what we have now.
All right, when that is, okay, what is the plan? The plan is to take that, and when you get through with it, is there going to be some area that is just covered equipment or vehicle storage, or is it all going to be, give us an overview of that.
Okay. Basically, where the administrative part of the building is now will continue to be the administrative part. We will have our offices.
3,000 square feet?
3,000 square feet, more or less. Now, the 27,000 feet behind that, if you look on top of the building, they have 8 or 9 air conditioners up there, and they have heaters all in this building. When they made their precision products, they had a bunch of dies and tools and machinery in there that they had to keep this temperature controlled right at 70 degrees year round. So they got the windows painted so sunlight won't come in and affect that. They got these air conditioners and heaters. We won't need any of that. The back part where the 27,000 square feet, we're going to have vehicles in there. We're going to have everything that we have outside as far as fire hydrants and pipe and valves. All that's going to be inside. We're going to have some roll-up doors at the back where we can back vehicles in, like dump trucks and trailers with backhoes, so they can head out at a moment's notice. Nearly all of our vehicles can be indoors. We're going to have a lot of, they've got columns every 30 feet. We're going to see if we can remove a bunch of those columns to where it can be more easily navigatable through there with vehicles. I don't anticipate heating or cooling most of that 27,000 square feet because vehicles will be going in and out. We're going to have exhaust fans to move air because of the vehicle emissions. The roof is flat. I want to get away from that flat roof. Get some sort of pitched roof where we can not have to worry about leaks and all that sort of stuff. There will need to be a couple of rooms that are minimally heated. Now we have a jetback truck that we use to flush sewers, and we have a tank there that's full of water. So that's going to be in a room that'll probably be heated no more than 45 degrees. I mean, it doesn't need to be up to shirt sleeve weather, just above freezing, so that won't freeze. And there may be another area where we have a welding machine and vices and cutting tools and all that sort of stuff. We probably keep that at about 40, 45 degrees. So the people can work back there, but again, that won't be a shirt sleeve type area either.
All right.
There is some asbestos in the building. Now, you know, y'all required us to look at that, and we did. We got a report on that. So most of the asbestos there is going to be in a form that's very easily removed. Those blue panels around the outside, those asbestos. All of the floor tiles are asbestos. There is some caulking around some windows that's asbestos, but all that should be easily removable.
And when do you anticipate this firm will be ready to go to contract on this?
They have in here on page 2, paragraph 1.21, commencement of construction date November 2013. I think we can get that accelerated a little bit. Now they have their various steps. They got the preliminary design, and then they got a little bit more design where they start talking about the interior, and then they have to get final plans and specifications and all that sort of stuff. I think we can get that accelerated before November 13 or November of this year.
Okay, we'll be anxious to see them. Thank you.
All right, that completes our agenda, other than the city manager's report.
Vote on that contract.
Or do you want to, okay, yeah, excuse me. Did we get our motion in a second? All right. Any further discussion on this request to move forward on this proposal from Hastings? Please call the roll.
Snyder? Aye. Head?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Ellis?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Mason?
Aye.
Has 6-0.
Okay. Now, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief report. On Saturday, January 5th, a sinkhole developed in the backwash lagoon at the water treatment plant, and City Engineer David Brewer has obtained the necessary state permits to repair the sinkhole, and a geotechnical firm has been retained to design the repairs to the lagoon. Also, the contractor has completed the construction of the 20-inch water transmission main along Highway 431 South. City staff, the design engineer, and the contractor are developing a schedule to pressure test and disinfect the line and to fill the new elevated tank near Highway 257. So Mr. Lee Masters anticipates everything will be in full operation by the end of the month, hopefully. And lastly, the police department, as you can see as you walked in the lobby, is offering free gun locks to gun owners. The locks are available in the lobby at City Hall. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything further?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.